What is up, guys? Hope you all are doing well. If you're a subscriber, welcome back to the channel. Happy to see y'all tune in once again. If you're new here, welcome. Today we're going to be doing the same thing that we normally do, which is play 2-5 down here at the Seminole Coconut Creek Casino in South Florida. It's a Friday night, so a lot of action should be found here, same as any other Friday night. Personally, it's my favorite night to play. If you guys could drop a thumbs up, that'd be greatly appreciated. It helps out the channel quite a bit. And then if you are new and you're not subscribed yet, I'll let you watch the video. And then if you enjoy it, please drop a subscription. That would be greatly appreciated as well. We are in an absolute heat right now. I think we've cashed our past 10 or 11 sessions. So, yeah, kind of like expecting to lose sooner or later, which probably isn't the right mentality, but it's the truth. So, yeah, that's all I got. Let's hope that there's some cool spots tonight, a lot of action, and I'll see y'all in there. Alright, y'all, if you watched the previous video, you know that we bought him for a shorter stack than normal. Same deal today, $500 in the 2-5 game, and we look down at pocket aces within the first few orbits. Bump it up to 20 with a fresh image at the table, and we get 4 callers. So $100 in this pot pre-flop, going 5 ways to a flop, which comes down queen 6-7 rainbow. Pretty good flop for aces, so I put in the c-bet to $80. Definitely want to be sizing up, going 5 ways. Essentially just trying to get called by any queen or any straight possibilities, but unfortunately, for some reason, somehow, not a single player has any piece of this board. Every single player folds. Still happy to take it down, but wish we could have gotten a little bit more value. After the pocket aces hand, there was around a 30 to 45 minute period where we were getting pretty marginal hands, raising it up pre-flop, not connecting, and then we just have to fold on future streets. So our 500 plus stack dwindled all the way down to $350, and so we look down at the 8-9 of spades in the +1 position. We raise it up to $20, and we only get 1 caller as the button tags along. So the flop looks pretty nice. The flop comes down king 8-9 with 2 hearts. So we have bottom 2, but on the most wet connected board. Definitely want to be putting in a bet. I bet $25. In hindsight, I think I could go a little bit larger, but luckily the button does that for me. He raises to $75, and I'll let you guys hear what I do next. That's right, guys. I just decided to jam it all in. Even though it's kind of a big overbet, I think it's fine on this board texture with so many cards that we wouldn't want to see on future streets, along with just being out of position. I just decided to put the money in now, but unfortunately he elects on a fold. So our stack is back up to around $500. This next hand we're feeling pretty ambitious as we look down at the queen 10 offsuit in the hijack position. Low jack min clicks to $10, and with our tight image at the table, definitely want to be capitalizing on the spot as we raise it up to $35. Looking back at it, I definitely prefer a fold in the spot. I keep on forgetting that I'm playing short stack compared to what I normally buy in for the 2-5 game. With only around 100 big blinds to navigate post flop, it's going to be hard to do so out of position and with a mediocre hand like this. Also, when 3 players behind me call and the low jack gets out of the way, that does not help the situation at all. The only thing really going with us is our image, so when the flop comes down 3-5-6 with 2 clubs, this is the most wet connected board we could really ask for, but I'm going to put my image to the test. I bet out $65 and we only get 1 call from the big blind. Was hoping for a fold, but happy to narrow out the field. When the big blind flat calls, I can almost always put him on either a flush draw or a straight draw because any 2 pair or better would most likely be raising in this exact spot. So when the turn comes another 5, this is actually a pretty good card as it will disincentivize any of the flush draws or straight draws to continue on future streets. So with my tight image, I think I could put him to the test by putting in a pretty big bet. So I slide out $125, and luckily he doesn't think for too long and lets it go. Super thankful to take down that pot with a pretty risky bluff. I hope y'all like the last hand because we got it once again. Queen 10, this time in the hijack with no limps to us, so we decided to open up the action to $20 and the button and the small blind call. Hoping to see a flop that we get a piece of, which is exactly what happens when the flop comes down. Queen Jack 10 with 2 clubs. This is the most wet connected board, so I definitely want to be sizing up. I size all the way up to $55, knowing that either of these players will continue with any draw. Looks like the button didn't have too much. He decides to let his cards go, but the small blind decides to make the call. Now navigating on future streets in position when the turn comes a 7 of clubs, so the most obvious draw did come through, and what's even more miserable is when the small blind decides to lead out for $110. This size bet is around a little bit over 2/3, so it's not a horrible price, and we also look down at our cards and we notice that we have the queen of clubs. I think he could also be using this card as a scare card just because me sizing up on the flop, it looks like that I'm trying to be folding out any flushes. And also, even if we are beat, we have outs to a full house or a potential higher flush, so I decided to make the call. The river's a real interesting card. It is a 9 of clubs, meaning that any club is now a flush, any 8 of clubs is now a straight flush, but I don't know how many 8 of clubs he's going to have in his range. Hoping that the small blind slows down a little bit on this card, but he does not. He decides to put me to the test as he bets $175. Not in love with this spot, but I think he could be using this run out to his advantage just to try to take down the pot. And also, he is only betting less than a half pot size bet. So in action style on us, we have less than a 1/3 odd to make this call. With all those factors included, and with the fourth nuts, I decided to just shrug it and make the call. And luckily, we do make the right decision as he shows King 8 offsuit. So I told you guys the action here on Friday night is insane.
Jimmy, 1-2, Jimmy. Go to table 4.
Our stack climbing all the way up to $900 when we look down at the beautiful ace-king offsuit in the low jack position. Under the gun raises it up to 20, and we put in the 3-bet to $65. The small blind decides on a cold call, and the under the gun player decides to tag along as well. So going 3 ways to a flop, which comes down queen 8-6 rainbow. When action checks to me, now is the question whether I want to bet or check. With this spot, I think we could go both ways, but I elect on a check just to realize some equity on the turn, which is very much realized when the ace of spades comes right out on the felt. Action checks to me once again as I figured it would, and now it's time to go for some value. I bet to the tune of $110, which is definitely too greedy because both the players fold, and what's even more embarrassing as the under the gun player shows a queen, so definitely got a bit too greedy on that one, but happy to take it down. Running extremely well tonight, getting some pretty good cards as our stack is all the way up to $1,120 when we look down at ace-king offsuit and the small blind. Under the gun player limps, which he's done quite a bit tonight. I decide to size all the way up to $30. The big blind elects on a flat call, which is kind of alarming, but it's nothing too concerning as we have ace-king, and the under the gun player calls as well. So the flop comes down ace-high with 2 hearts. Good flop for our exact holding. We can get value from a lot of draws, so I bet $40, and both players elect on a call. So still going 3 ways to a turn, which is a queen. This isn't the best card in the world as we are now losing to queen jack, which could very well be in these guys' ranges, but we also have a gutter to the nuts along with our top pair top kicker. Definitely still want to be going for some value as we can target any heart draws that we do not block, so I bet out $110, hoping to get a call again from any draw or any weaker holding. The big blind does decide to make the call, so when he just flat calls, I think we can almost always put him on either a weaker ace or a flush draw, and the under the gun player gets out of the way. So now going heads up to a river, which is a great card for our exact holding. It is a offsuit 10. We make Broadway in the most lucky disguised way, but it's going to be hard to get value from anything worse. With the likely holding that he could have as a heart draw, I like to play a little bit tricky and check it over to him, hoping that he takes the bait, in which he does. He slides out $250 with around $100 behind. I only have one move here. I go all in and he snap calls, figuring we're chopping here 100% of the time, which is exactly what happens when he shows king 10 of hearts. So he had a monster hand on the turn, had the heart draw, but already had Broadway, and we get extremely lucky there on the river. Happy to chop this one in the most unorthodox lucky way. In the very next hand, we look down at ace-9 of clubs on the button. Action folds around to me. I bump it up to $20, and we get a call from both players in the blinds, putting them on any 2 cards when the flop comes down jack high with 2 clubs. Great flop for our exact holding, so when action checks around to me, I like to slow down and realize some equity on the turn because these players have not folded to any of my bets that I've placed on the flop, so I just slow down with a check. The turn does give us a lot more equity. It's a queen, so now we have an up and down straight draw. Any king or any 8 will give us a straight. What's good news is that the small blind leads out for $35 and the big blind elects on a call. When action's now on me, now's the question whether I want to be putting in a raise or a flat call. I looked on a flat call just because these players rarely fold to raises, and I want to realize some equity on the river, which is very much realized as we river the nuts once again when an offsuit king comes out. Action checks to me, so I figured these guys don't have much. I tried to squeak out the smallest of value, betting a measly $30, but both players let it go. Happy to take it down. For around a 30 to 45 minute period, we get some pretty good hands that we open up the action, but we were forced to fold on later streets. Our stack now only at $1,000 when we look down at the 6-8 of diamonds. The button puts on a straddle, which he's been extremely active so far. He's a newer player, so I decided to put in the raise at $30 from the under the gun position, and he is the only caller. When the flop comes down Jack 8-7, we have middle pair with some backdoor draws. When action starts with us, I left in a check, which in hindsight, I don't know if I like a bet or a check here. Let me know what you guys would do in this exact spot. I think with middle pairs, we can still get value from a lot of the draws available. The button does take the betting lead away from us as he throws out $35, and when action's now on us, with a lot of backdoor draws and middle pair, I elect to make a call. Turn is interesting. It is a 6 of clubs, so now we have 2 pair, but the most obvious draw did come in, so I like to check my action to him once again, as I imagine he'd be firing on this card quite often. And as you guys can see, he bets pretty quickly, not a lot of thought into it. He bets out $55. So now action back on us. This is a very cheap price relative to the pot, a little bit more than 1-4, so I like to make the call once again. The river is a kind of miserable card. It is a 10 of diamonds, so any 9 makes it straight now. I check my action to him once again, and again, he throws out another bet, but he doesn't think for that long once again. He bets out $100. So an action's now on us, getting less than 3-1 with 2 pair against a very aggressive player, along with just the timing of the bets. I don't think for too long, and I just decided to make a call, and sure enough, he shows us Queen 10 with the 10 of clubs. So he was firing with a gutter ball and a flush draw, and we make the right call and take it down. Our stack ballooning all the way up to $1,300 when we look down at Ace-10 offsuit and the big blind. There's a button straddle. We open up the action to $30, and the only caller is the button himself. So going heads up to a flop, which comes down quite nice. It is Ace-10-7 with 2 diamonds. We flop top 2 pair with a backdoor nut flush draw. When action's now on me, this is a board that I'll be betting with 100% of my raising range, even if I don't have an ace, let alone 2 pair. So I definitely want to be capitalizing on this image. I bet out $60, and the button doesn't think for too long and elects on a call. Praying that the turn is clean, in which, in my opinion, the turn looks like one of the best turns on the deck. It is a 8. So now any 9 is now open-ended, and any hands that would most likely be calling the flop now have probably more equity than they did prior. So for instance, a hand like 8-9 now has a pair along with its open-ended draw. So with a card like this and having top 2, I definitely still want to be firing out a pretty sizable bet. I size out a pretty sizable bet to the tune of $150. I do like the sizing, as like I said prior, any of the pairs plus straight draws are definitely more inclined to keep on tagging along. And sure enough, he doesn't think for too long and makes the call. So here's where I think I messed up. The river is a 6, so now any 9 is a straight, and action starts off with me. Putting him on a lot of the pair plus straight draws, such as again like 8-9, he now got there, and I would hate to check and then get overbet on, or bet and then get raised, so I just take the low variance route and elect on a check. We will be missing out some value on weaker aces, but I really don't know what else we could get value from on this river. So when I check it, luckily he doesn't put us to the test, and he checks it back. When he checks it back, we know that we're good always, and we flip over the Ace-10, and he lets it go. Let me know what you guys would have done on that river. Kind of a weird run out, but happy to take it down with our Ace-10. In this next hand, shortly after the prior hand, we look down at Ace-Jack of hearts in the small blind. The +1 player decides to bump it up to $25. He gets 2 callers, and when action's now on us, this is a spot whether we want a 3-bet or flat call. I looked on a flat call, being suited, and just a form of randomization that since the cards are hearts, this is just my method of choosing whether or not to call or raise. So when the flop comes down Queen Jack 7, we have middle pair with the nut kicker. So when action starts with us, we just start off with a check, and to my surprise, action checks all the way around. Feeling pretty confident about our jack when the turn comes a 3 of diamonds, and I check. The hijack player decides to throw out a bet to the tune of $65. I think this is a pretty fair price, as I'd imagine any queen would bet the flop, so I happily make the call. The river's a great card. It is another queen, making it less likely he has a queen. I check it, and he snap checks it back. We happily table our ace-jack, and sure enough, we're good. We take down another pot. I feel like we cannot lose today. In this next hand, we look down at the gorgeous ace-king offsuit. Well, we'd prefer field suited, but ace king still pretty good. We bump it up to 50 after the under the gun player raises to 15. The button jams all in for 290. That same super aggressive player who we've been getting involved in the past few pots, he shows us an ace. We show our ace, so we know that we're good. No. He shows the other ace, so we are absolutely crushing this hand, and we do not improve, unfortunately. So we dock off $300, and his image gets him paid the maximum. With our stack now a little bit over $1,500, so the session is going about as good as it can when we look down at pocket queens and the under the gun position. The button straddles, we raise it up to $35, and he is the only defender. This is the same player that we've been getting involved in the past few pots. When the flop comes down ace high, this is kind of miserable for our exact hand. Feels like every time you have queens or kings, there's an ace out there. We slow down with the check, and to my surprise, he checks it back. Feeling pretty confident now when the turn comes at 2. He's known to be firing on almost any turn, so when he bets out $35, this is a very fair price, as I feel like I'm almost always ahead. I actually contemplate a raise, but I elect just on a call to keep all of his bluffs in his range. The river's an interesting card. It is another ace, but the backdoor flush does come through. He doesn't think for too long, and he slides out another bet to $90. Knowing this player's tendencies, I think we only have one real option. We'll be losing to any backdoor flush, but that's really about it. We call, and he says that we're good. He says he has nothing, and he lets it go. So that is the last hand of the night, and we're happy to take down queens on an ace-high flop. We just got out of there, guys. Another successful session. We were in the game for $500 doing the Phil Hellmuth small stack strategy. We were out of the game for $1746. So a profit of $1,245. Absolutely insane. One hand that I know, sorry, car's coming. One hand that I screwed up was the ace 10 hand, where it was, the flop was ace 7-10, where we had top 2. With the ace of diamonds, we bet 2 streets, and then on the 3rd street, we decided on a check. Having the ace of diamonds in that spot eliminates a lot of his flush possibilities, so I think his most likely holding was like ace 9 or something along those lines, but I think we could have certainly got a little bit more value on the river. Not too bad. A lot of stuff went our way tonight. We played well. The table was extremely aggressive, so we played a bit more passive and just waited for spots and capitalized on it. So that's all I got for now, y'all. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, again, please give it a thumbs up. And if you are not subscribed already and you enjoyed it, please subscribe. Greatly appreciate that as well. That's all I got, y'all. I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.